When I was a kid, of all the Disney films I owned, and I owned a lot, Pinocchio was probably the one I watched the most. Very often in the morning I would grab a coffee table, drown a couple waffles in syrup, I would slap Pinocchio in the VCR and I would watch the everlasting shit out of it. Pinocchio was probably my favorite Disney movie when I was a kid, and it still holds that nostalgic factor. But now, of course, when I'm watching it as an adult, I can watch it in a whole new perspective and appreciate it on a whole new level. When I was watching Pinocchio as a kid, I always thought that it was made in like the 90s or the late 80s at the most. Well, basically from around the same time as The Lion King or Aladdin. I mean, I was astounded when I found out that this movie was made in 1940. So you mean you're telling me that that's from 1940? That's almost unbelievable. I had the same kind of reaction when I found out that Snow White was from 1937. Like, I could hardly believe it. How could this movie be so old and yet have this incredible animation? Snow White had incredible animation for the first animated movie of all time. But then, look at what Walt Disney managed to accomplish not even 3 years later. I mean, good God. Snow White had incredible animation, but Pinocchio was only Walt Disney's second film, and it was leaps and bounds beyond what Snow White accomplished. And Snow White was Disney's prototype. A very impressive prototype that managed to bring animation to full swing as a medium. But Pinocchio was the perfected product. And Disney only managed to accomplish it on his second try. That is beyond impressive. And that animation still looks damn good, even to this day. And he not only perfected it in terms of animation, he perfected it when it came to the story, the characters, the music, every conceivable way. Pinocchio had a much more three-dimensional and engaging story about a wooden puppet brought to life that has to learn morality and the consequences of bad choices. He had his conscience, Jiminy Cricket, to give him advice on his path, but he rarely listens. But not because he's a bad person, but because he really doesn't know any better. And as he faces the consequences of his bad choices, he learns from his mistakes. Like everybody does. The villains in this movie are also very realistic. I don't know about three-dimensional, but they're among the most realistic villains in the entire Disney canon, because people like this actually exist. Honest John is the slimy scumbag opportunist who will stoop to any low to make it big. Stromboli is the corrupt businessman who puts on a pleasant face in public, and the coachman is a human trafficker. All of these are effective, realistic villains that are quite terrifying when they pull the pleasant mask off. And even more when you realize guys like this actually exist. And Monstro the whale is one of the most terrifying animals ever put on screen. I mean, shit. He scared the shit out of me as a kid, and he still gives me chills today. And to quote Crack.com, no matter how terrified you are of the ocean, you ain't terrified enough. And Monstro is the epitome of that. He also provided a hell of a climax for what is a near-perfect movie. This movie was Walt Disney's crowning achievement in terms of storytelling. It boasts some of the finest animation the studio has ever done, and it was a massive improvement over his first film. Unfortunately, I don't think Walt was ever able to make a movie of this caliber again. If you agree or disagree with this video, be sure to discuss in the comments section, and if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Also be sure to check out my blog at The Critical Canucks at blogspot.ca, and also be sure to follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook, all that jazz. Links to all those are in the description below. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll be seeing you next time. Peace out, everybody.